future, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, it's Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, May 18th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. We have quite a bit to get to today on day 80 of the Iran war. Trump was saying that we're going to attack them, and now says we're not going to attack them. So we're going to go through all that. Iran says they're not going to surrender. We got all those details for you today. On the Iran war, we have some public health news. Looks like the WHO did declare the Ebola outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. We'll take a look at that. We got data center news. We got the Department of War versus Massie in his Kentucky House seat race. We're going to cover that. We got geopolitical news, economic news. They've now killed over 3,000 Lebanese since March 2nd. And they continue to genocide the Palestinians, tragically enough. We have all that to cover and much more on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. Where do we start here? Well, let's get back to let's start with this day in history. As per usual, thank you everybody for joining us. Those coming online right now, jump in the chat, give me some hate. I guess we're doing pretty good if we're getting some high-level trolls over there in the chats. I guess that's a sign of the times and that we're actually doing what we're supposed to be doing here. So that's being reported to us here now at Weaponized News. All right, let's get to this day in history. We have a lot of news to cover today. On this day in our history, May 18th, going back to the year 332, that has all kinds of esoteric occult meanings in it. The year 332. On this day, Roman Emperor Constantine the Great institutes free daily bread rations in Constantinople. On this day in the year 332. Then we fast way forward to the year 1096. On this day, I don't know, these crazy crusaders, they saw something was not right with the aardvarks. They massacred the aardvarks of Worms. 1652 on this day, Rhode Island enacts the first law declaring slavery illegal. 1756 on this day, Great Britain declares war on France at the start of the 7 Years' War. 1830 on this day, Edwin Budding of England signs an agreement to manufacture his invention, the lawn mower. Saturdays are ruined forever. Our lawn's a psyop. That's what I saw our friend Snow from Pro-Pilled show threw that idea out there, and I'm liking that idea. I'm thinking lawns are a psyop. So they get us to grow the lawn. They do have aesthetic appeal, but instead of using our very small lots here in suburbia where I live, we grow a stupid lawn on it, right? Instead of growing food and other uses for that land. So on this day, 1830, the lawnmower was signed up to be manufactured, all part of a larger psyop. I guess just drink Roundup and glyphosate and just say I love Trump all day. I don't know what to tell people anymore. It's getting wild. Okay, on this day in 1863, we saw the siege of Vicksburg. U.S. General Ulysses S. Grant begins siege on Vicksburg Mississippi. After 47 days of battle, the sieged Confederate Lieutenant John C. Pemberton's troops surrender. There, after 47 days of battle, the siege of Vicksburg, of course, part of the American Civil War. On this day in 1897, Dow Chemical Company is founded in Midland, Michigan, and then they go on to manufacture a bunch of chemical weapons and poison the entire planet. And so we do appreciate their efforts to pollute the world. Dow Chemical, founded on this day, 1897. 1917, on this day, U.S. Congress passes Selective Service Act authorizing the federal government to raise a national army for the American entry into World War I through compulsory enlistment. And by the way, at the end of this year, in December, everyone, I forget the age range, 18 to whatever it is, I forget the age, but look out, because everyone of age to be signed up for selective service by the government will automatically be signed up. So keep a lookout for that as they're prepping the groundwork here now for a major draft here in America, quietly. So keep a lookout this December for that. On this day in 1918, we saw a TNT explosion in a chemical factory in Oakdale, Pennsylvania. That killed 200 people. 1933, that's a loaded year, right? 1933, on this day, for a loaded president, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signs the Tennessee Valley Authority Act to build dams and provide electricity in the Tennessee Valley. Quite a public works project for the time, actually. On this day in 1980, we saw the eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington State triggers the largest landslide in history, killing 57 people and causing an estimated over $1 billion in damage. And we were going to try to back tax Mount St. Helens on some carbon tax, but turns out nobody cares about the environment anymore, or climate change, or global warming, because we have data centers to build the technocracy, and that's what really matters. So I guess we're never getting those back carbon taxes paid by Mount St. Helens. On this day in 1983, Senate revises immigration laws, gives millions of illegal aliens legal status under an amnesty program. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if the ultimate betrayal by Trump will be to give all these, or a large majority of illegal aliens, amnesty. Certainly, it wouldn't surprise me one little bit, because we're certainly not getting the mass deportations we were promised. On this day in 1992, U.S. Supreme Court rules states could not force mentally unstable criminal defendants to take antipsychotic drugs. I got to say, I think that's a good ruling by the court there in that case. And then on this day in our civil liberties history, we have a few events. We go back to the year 1931. On this day in our civil liberties history, Supreme Court declares California red flag laws unconstitutional. 19-year-old Yetta Stromberg, attending a communist-sponsored summer camp, was arrested on August 3rd, 1929 for violating the California red flag law. A red flag was the symbol of communism, and a black flag the symbol of anarchism. The California law banned the display of both. Children at the camp began each day with a ceremony with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the workers' red flag. In Stormberg versus California, decided on this day, the Supreme Court declared the California law an unconstitutional violation of the First Amendment. And on this day in 1981, a prophetic warning, ACLU official warns that, quote, fear of terrorism may become greatest threat to civil liberties. And now, hell, we've been at war with Iran for 47 years. A terrorist is hiding under my bed in the never-ending war on terror that the West funds, trains, and radicalizes these said terrorists in large part. On this day in 1981, John Shattuck, director of the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, Washington Legislative Office, issued a warning that the rubric of, quote, terrorism could become the greatest threat to civil liberties. He issued that prophetic warning 20 years before the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the abuses of civil liberties by President George W. Bush's war on terrorism. And thankfully, Trump's keeping those violations of our civil liberties alive and well today without even a good story, without even a false flag attack, just never-ending propaganda and lies out of the Trump administration on behalf, in large part, of Aardvark land. And so we do appreciate those efforts to fight the never-ending war on terror. And the violation of, and the never-ending violation of our civil liberties. They're violating our Fourth Amendment right now as I speak. Everyone listening to the show in the whole world, actually, because I guess it only applies to Americans, but hey, I'm American. And you're violating my Fourth Amendment right now, NSA, and the rest of you spy agencies out there. So, not good. Okay, they had the big, they're selling our corporate fascist government, America 250, and trying to wrap themselves in the flag and the Bible and carrying the cross. But it turns out Christian Zionists are having a tough sell of it because they're just vile creatures. Here's that rededicate America to Christian faith, but they're very evil. So it's they just give me the creeps. I really don't like these people. Christian Zionist pastor Robert Jeffers declares that America's founding fathers would today be considered Christian nationalists, insinuating they would support something similar to Christian Zionism belief. I saw a bunch of these Zionists saying, oh, yeah, the founding fathers were Zionists. What? A bunch of them were Freemasons and deists. Some were Christians. But, yeah, I guess they're Zionists too. America was founded on Zionism. It says it in the Constitution, right? Sure it does. Here's this clown. What a piece of garbage all these people are. They just make me so sick, honestly. Here's our segue to the news.
As my friend Gary Bauer notes, these leaders who loved our country and loved our God would be called Christian nationalists today. And it is a title they would have gladly embraced. By the way, if being a Christian nationalist means loving Jesus Christ and loving America, count me in. As my friend Gary Bauer notes,
these guys. And then, hey, technocracy right here. Elon Musk compares his company's work to that of Jesus. In an interview on Monday, the billionaire said his Neuralink brain implant company is processing in its development of Jesus-like technologies. Talk about blasphemy. Strike these bastards down, God. I mean, my God. But hey, you want more blasphemy? You got it. Because here's Paula White, a top spiritual advisor to the Trump administration and to Trump himself. I mean, fraud upon fraud upon fraud upon fraud.
Faced moments when the soul of this nation was tested. The abolition movement did not rise from politics alone. It emerged in the wake of the Second Great Awakening, a spiritual revival that swept across our nation and called America back to God, to repentance.
But these are all devils, and now we're all slaves. So, I mean, that's where we're at. With these wicked, wicked people, and they still have this Kabbalist end times prophecy they're trying to fulfill here now. Here's Trump. He reads 2 Chronicles 7:11 to 22. And so Trump has it in his mind. He's the messianic leader that's going to bring about the aardvark Messiah and build the third temple and all of that routine that we've covered in depth here at Weaponized News. Here's Trump. He did not show up in person there to the event yesterday.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with David your father, saying, there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
What are they saying in the comments? Is this AI? I don't know. The White House posted it. Could be AI. Could be AI for all we know. But yeah, there's Trump. They got it. Hey, they're carrying out that agenda to build the third temple. Here's they did 8.5 hours, rededicate America 250, a national jubilee of prayer, praise, and thanksgiving yesterday there at the Capitol. And I saw a bunch of these good, wonderful Christians. They're all doing videos in with the Washington Monument and erect penis there behind them. And I'm like, wow, that's very occult and Freemason and esoteric of you guys. I'm sure Jesus would appreciate all of that. You know what I mean? It's just like these people, I'm not following them. I'll tell you that. That's why we got the First Amendment. But man, they just reek of evil to me. Christian Zionist Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he prays at the rededicate 250, a day-long prayer event. Is Trump a UK spy? I don't know. That's what they're implying by this meme. Kind of makes sense. City of London, UK intelligence sitting on top of all this corruption. The White House posted this meme, "Make America Great Again." And of course, this is Trump as James Bond. Well, James Bond is a UK spy. So what are you implying there? And that's right from the White House. Makes sense. It really does. Iran war day 80. Here we are. Trump put out this post earlier today. It says, if Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and hands held high, each shouting, I surrender, while wildly waving the representative white flag, and if their entire remaining leadership signs all the necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent USA, the failing New York Times, the China Street Journal, corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, and all other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. I wasn't even close. The Democrats and media have totally lost their way. They have gone absolutely crazy. Trump's the one looking like he's gone crazy. And he says he's proudly claimed a new term, Democrats. Because that's their main mission here, is to keep the people divided, fighting over partisan politics while the government steals everything that's not nailed down, and they're building our digital prison as fast as they possibly can right now and killing as many people as they possibly can. But hey, let's fight about Democrats and Republicans. That's exactly what they want you to do, distracted. The Democrats, isn't that cute? No, it's lame, and you're lame, bud. Look, I mean, we're not serious. This is not serious. Trump is posting this on his Truth Social here over the weekend.
Okay, we have it in our set. Fire. Okay.
That is AI. And he's not doing jack. He's not leading this war. He's sitting there in his bunker, wherever he may be, and getting 20 or 2-minute video montages of propaganda telling him he's winning the war. Freaking clown. He's not leading anything except for our economy into ruin and a bunch of dead U.S. soldiers and a bunch of dead Iranians, and go down the list. Dropside News reported earlier today, Iran has delivered a revised 14-clause negotiating text to the United States through Pakistan intermediaries. A source close to the Iranian negotiating team told Tasnim news agency the next text is Iran's response to a recent American reply to Iran's previous 14-point response. Both sides have been exchanging 14-clause texts through the Pakistani channel. Iran's latest document focuses on ending the war and U.S. confidence-building measures. The source said Pakistan is currently presenting it to American negotiators. President of Iran, they haven't whacked this dude yet. Again, he's in large part a figurehead. He said dialogue does not mean surrender. The Islamic Republic of Iran enters into dialogue with dignity, authority, and the preservation of the nation's rights, and under no circumstances will it retreat from the legal rights of the people of the country. We will serve the people with logic and with all our might to end and safeguard the interests and honor of Iran. They're arming up the civilians. We got video of that later in the show. And so Iran's arming up their population with AK-47s and other weapons, prepping for a U.S. ground invasion. Here's the latest. This just broke what came out a couple hours ago before we came on the air. Here's the latest about where we're at with it, according to Trump posts. He says, and the background of this was Trump was saying all weekend, yeah, we're getting ready to go in heavy to Iran again, right? But now this post again came out a few hours ago, says, I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the President of the United Arab Emirates to hold off on our planned military attack on Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow, in that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that in their opinion, as great leaders and allies, a deal will be made which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond. This deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. Based on my respect for the above-mentioned leaders, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, and the U.S. military that we will not be doing the scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to go further with a full, large-scale assault on Iran on a moment's notice in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached. And so Trump's buying time to profiteer some more. And we have some of his war profiteering in the economics section. Here's what he had to say earlier today about all of this.
IRS is now going
Wait,
to...
excuse me.
Can you speak a little bit about your post on True Social on Iran, and what was the decision that why you didn't attack Iran?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied.
Karen says, excuse me, disclaimer. Says I'm going to give a disclaimer for watching the show. Sam keeps forgetting, so I'll remind you, watching may cause involuntary alcohol consumption. Kind of, sort of. Here's Trump over the weekend, and so you could see he's he's a serious American president. Really? That is AI, and he's posting that on his Truth Social. Trump pushes red button for orbit as nuclear strikes explode right next to Britain. Man, you can see right there, right? Oh, he's just nuking his bosses there. Yeah, that actually wouldn't be a very bad idea, but we digress here in our coverage. Here's Ron Paul on this insanity that we see from the Ron Paul report.
True.
The one thing that struck me about that sense is there are two things. You're right about the first one. Well, you sure went a few thousand miles to attack Iran. But the other thing is sort of a flash of the Trump that we both liked, that sadly is buried somewhere. We don't know where. But this whole thing, we're supposed to travel 9,500 miles to fight a war. I'm not looking for that.
Is the Trump that we liked, is he buried with the nuke dust? I think so.
I want them to cool down. That sounds pretty good. If he had just had that view about the rest of the world, from Ukraine to Iran to everywhere, that's the Trump most of America wanted when they voted for him. And that's the one who's AWOL, I would have to say.
But isn't it amazing that the credibility of those statements never challenged?
Yeah.
He gets by with this, and they can be two absolutely opposite, but the people like it. They like the approach, the attitude, because otherwise you're saying, oh, you guys over there, the Freedom Reports, you guys are wimps.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to go to war. No, I don't want to ever go to war. I don't want my kids to go to war, and my grandkids to go to war. True.
The one thing that struck me about that sense is there are two
Yeah, the government's failed when we go to war. That's a failed state. That's all you have left is to kill people. 3 Iranian officials discussed negotiations after Trump claimed he postponed planned military strike on Iran on Tuesday at the request of Gulf leaders. Iranian president, we read that statement, Riazi, former IRGC commander, he's like in the background. You know what I mean? We showed that dude. He's a mean looking, evil looking dude. Anyway, former IRGC commander in chief and current military advisor to Supreme Leader Khomeini, widely seen as one of the most powerful figures in Iran's wartime ruling structure, was more defiant, writing that Trump sets a deadline for a military attack and then cancels it himself, hoping to use this vain hope to make Iran's people and officials surrender. The iron fist of Iran's powerful armed forces and great nation will force them to retreat and surrender. And then Iran's foreign minister, Odysee, said, meanwhile, held a call with his Saudi counterpart, Farhan, and all 3 Gulf leaders who President Trump claims asked him to stand down to discuss the ongoing diplomatic process and the latest regional developments. And U.S. CENTCOM, hey, Khomeini's still in charge of Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and everything cost a whole hell of a lot more than it did before we started this adventure. But hey, CENTCOM, here's the video from CENTCOM. U.S. Central Command continues to strictly enforce U.S. blockade against Iranian ports. U.S. forces have now redirected 85 commercial vessels to ensure full compliance. Let's watch this short clip from U.S. Central Command. No audio on this. So as it says in the Constitution, that our military is the police of the Strait of Hormuz, mandated there. And so we're carrying out those duties. Some still images from policing the Strait of Hormuz. Lovely. This policing of the Strait of Hormuz is going to cause millions in the third and fourth worlds to starve to death. So when you're saying, yay, we love the tough guys with the machine guns, keep that in the back of your mind. And yeah, everybody that's pro-war, do we ever learn? This post over the weekend by the White House: if you hurt Americans or are planning to hurt Americans, we will find you and we will kill you. Trump's Operation Warp Speed, I posted in there, killed millions of Americans. So, yeah. And then, yeah, we never hear the end of Iran nukes. Trump admitted last Thursday that Well, he said U.S. objective of recovering highly enriched uranium from Iran was more for public relations, PR, propaganda than anything else. And the propaganda and lies continue from Trump, as per usual here now. So don't do drugs, kids. But if you do drugs, buy them from TrumpRx.gov. Trump says he's reducing drug prices by 400, 500, 600, or even 700%. Wow. More lies, but that's about all we get out of Trump these days is propaganda and lies.
There's never been anything like this. We think of it, we went from the most expensive to the least expensive. So we've slashed the price of dozens of commonly used prescription drugs by differences of 400, 500, and even 600%. In my first term, I got it down 1/8 of 1%. It's the first time in 28 years it went.
And his bat miracles are still there on the market. So TrumpRx.gov. The World Health Organization declares Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern. The World Health Organization declared an Ebola outbreak in Eastern Africa, quote, public health emergency of international concern yesterday. 88 deaths and 336 cases of the disease have been reported, primarily in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Trump was asked about that at this same where he's selling his drugs at TrumpRx.gov.
Go ahead, Ebola. You said Ebola.
Yeah. Should Americans be concerned about Ebola?
I'm concerned about everything, but certainly am. I think that it's been confined right now to Africa, and but it's something that has had a breakout. I could ask Bobby or us.
We should ship all those infected to the nursing homes per public health policy here in America. Right. 3 men were killed in a shooting at Islamic Center of San Diego earlier today, and 2 suspected shooters were later found dead. Authorities believe the suspects were teenagers, and investigators are treating the attack as a hate crime, according to a report out of the Associated Press. I'll take this win because this dude blocked a bunch of Maha. This guy lost in his Louisiana Republican primary, Bill Cassidy. And so don't let the door hit you on the way out there, bud. And of course, he's corrupted by a whole lot of big pharma money. And so he's gone. And so climate change is over, apparently, because we have to make way for the data centers. Here's what Trump had to say about that. Good riddance after 15 years of Democrats promising that climate change is going to destroy the planet. The United Nations top climate scientist said, just admitted that its own projections, RCP 8.5 were wrong. For far too long, climate activism has been used by Democrats to scare Americans, push horrible energy policies, and fund billions into their bogus research programs. Unlike the Democrats who use climate alarmism nonsense to push their Green New scam, my administration will always be based on truth and science and fact. Because we have to make way for the data centers. Remember all the big techs, they're all behind climate change. But yeah, they flip on a dime because, hey, CEO Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan is promising that they're going to give us life extension technology via AI. Call me skeptical. I have my doubts that we're going to see any of this, if it's even possible.
So AI, big picture, AI is going to cure cancers and reduce work weeks, and kids will live longer, and planes will be safer, cars will be safer, and less people die. And You'll have new drugs. It's going to be good. We've been using it now for 13 years. It does an amazing job in various different things. So we're going to deploy it to help our customers. There are two attributes that people worry about. One is mythos. It's legitimate that this is so powerful and covers a lot of vulnerabilities. And we're all trying to figure out how to deal with it, not just for ourselves, but with all of our friends. Big banks, small banks, telecom, the government's on top of it. A lot of the work is done by enterprise. They don't have the ability to do a lot of that. So I think, Scott Bessett's running it for banks, and I assume they've done it for other people elsewhere. So we're all getting our heads around it. It is risky. Everyone, and we actually publish, and people should look at this, like a list of what you can do now. Don't wait to get mythos, because everybody's going to get it at one point, but you can't give it to everyone. They can't handle it. When it gets leaked out, it can be used by bad guys before we protected open source code and all our code. And so we need a little work to do to get it done right.
There you go. All the great benefits list of AI, they're listed by Jamie Dimon. The FBI wants to buy nationwide access to license plate readers. Report here out of who are these guys? 404. The FBI wants to buy access to automated license plate readers, ALPRs, nationwide, which would likely allow the agency to track the movements of vehicles and, by extension, people across the country without a warrant. That's a 404 media reporting, according to FBI procurement records. So, yeah, they're building the surveillance police state here to keep us safe from the terrorists that they create. It's really to protect their technocracy. Elon Musk lost his lawsuit against Sam Altman, OpenAI, and Microsoft after a California jury ruled he filed the claims too late. Musk had accused OpenAI of betraying its nonprofit mission by creating a for-profit arm, but jurors agreed the alleged harms happened before the legal deadlines to sue. And so you have technocracy infighting there. Here's Elon Musk says, I'm a huge admirer of the innovation coming out of aardvark land. Shocking development here, because we gave them a bunch and they stole the rest.
No, totally. I'm going to bring you back to us, to Israel here just for a second. Do you have a message to the Israeli innovators here in the crowd?
Well, I have to say, I'm a huge admirer of the innovation coming out of Israel. Honestly, I think objectively true that Israel punches far above its weight for population. I think probably number one, honestly, in the world, in terms of, my hat is off to Israel for just how much incredible innovation. I say innovation per capita, Israel's must.
And did you guys catch? I just caught it. That conference is called the Samson Conference. Trying to find that. Trying to get to that clip right here. Right here, you could see. And of course, the Samson option is they'll just blow everything up if we don't do what they say. Essentially, if they feel they're losing in their 8-front war, the Samson International Smart Mobility Summit of 2026, the Samson, right there. So beyond creepy, beyond dystopic, onto the data centers. Here's a young lady. They're going to go ahead and take her property with eminent domain for the data centers.
Hey you guys, my name's Ansley. I live in Coweta County, Georgia. I wanted to come out here and show you guys firsthand what is happening to our county. So as you can see behind me, we have these power lines. Georgia Power is going to expand these lines to support power to the data center. What they're doing to homeowners is they're taking their homes. This is my childhood home behind me. It is being taken by force by Georgia Power. Homeowners in this county do not have a choice. It is called eminent domain, and they will take it.
It's happening everywhere. They're building these things faster than we can even see. There's more out of Texas, the leading state for data centers.
In Texas, I think I saw a number that you guys currently have 40 data centers, about to go to 400 in the next 2 years. What is your opinion on AI data centers? Because there's two arguments to it. Where do you stand with that?
So it's a complicated issue because obviously we are competing with China, and that's with artificial intelligence, and we cannot lose that.
Not a lie. They're telling us we have to beat China in the AI race, and that's why we need to build all these data centers. It doesn't stack up. The lies don't stack up. And so they're sucking up all the water and all the energy resources to build these AI data centers as fast as we can see. Allegedly, according to Sean Parnell, assistant to the Secretary of War, their propaganda arm, he tells us 1 billion views on war.gov/UFO. And they're saying they're going to release some more alien UFO footage because everybody yawned the first time around. So they're still trying to convince us that of aliens or UFOs, with Project Bluebeam in their back pocket there. And so they claim 1 billion views on war.gov/UFOs. Trump posted that he's been on one, running a psyops on his idiot reporters, following him on True Social. It was the calm before the storm. This is that more Q psyop BS. Anybody still following that? Seek mental help, because you've been lied to and abused by Trump. Here's a MTG on calling out QAnon as a psyop, which it is.
There's this whole premise coming from the sort of QAnon movement, and that's like a whole can of worms. And there's indication possibly that QAnon is just another example of Operation Trust, which is a Soviet sort of controlled opposition thing to get people who were against the system to support just another individual within the system. But this idea that there are quote unquote white hats in the system working behind the scenes, and President Trump is one of the primary white hats that was able to infiltrate all the corruption and in order to bring about a new era of abundance and freedom by way of the American government. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that.
I fell for that in late 2017 and 2018. And then Q said the midterms were safe, and then the election happened and Nancy Pelosi became Speaker of the House. So I quickly said, this is a bunch of bullshit, and I'm not going to believe it anymore. It is a psychological operation completely to pull in those that, like you said, are against the government the most, that don't trust it. It is to pull them in and literally force their faith into believing an anonymous source, someone they've never seen, don't know who it is, have no clue who is telling them these things, and they put their entire faith into it. And it's basically a cult. It really honestly is. It pulls them into cult-like thinking and believing complete and outright lies. What it does, it takes a layer of truth and then it twists it into a lie. And it's just completely, it's not right. And I think most people are out of it now. I hope they're out of it now, but some people still hang on to it. But Q was very successful. It was probably one of the most successful psychological operations I've ever seen, because it did use the layer of truth and the things that people were most passionate about, and was able to use that and
twist their belief to pull their full faith and trust into someone an anonymous person.
Trust riddles on the internet, bro. They're coming to save you with the riddles. Onto this insane. Over there in the chat, Jen says, if you want to chat, go to the Rumble chat because YouTube is not, people are not chatting back and forth. So if you want to chat back and forth about the issues or amongst yourself, whatever, on Rumble is where that live chat is, just to let you guys know here. On to Thomas Massie versus the Department of War. Here's Trump attacking Massie.
I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massie. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. He is so bad. Got an election coming up. He's running against a great guy, a great patriot, Ed Gilrain. He's fantastic. But forget that. Massie's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting.
Trump's mad because Massie was part of getting the Epstein files released. And he calls him out on his war as well. Trump continues to attack Thomas Massie. Put out a big old post. I'm not even going to read the whole thing, but here it is. Trump can't meme. There you go. So it's the most money ever spent on a Republican primary race. That's here old Ron Paul and Nick Adams talk about it.
Well, you know, one of the good transparency tools out there on X for all the garbages there is a X account called AIPAC Tracker, and they track how much each candidate has accepted from AIPAC and AIPAC-related special interest groups. Now, put that next one on. This is a stark contrast. That next clip, if you can. Here we have Ed Gilrain, the person who's challenging Thomas, refuses to debate. $15,522,757 from pro-Israel PACs. On the right, you have Thomas Massie, $0 from pro-Israel PACs. I think that really says the whole thing, Dr. Paul. Well, foreign special interests, and I would say regardless of country, if that was Ukraine, I would be just as mad, but it's not. But this is what we're facing. It's pretty dramatic.
It's beyond ridiculous. Massie confronts the full force of Trump's wrath in Republican primary. Report out of NBC News, the Kentucky Republican has emerged as perhaps the president's most critical primary target after bucking him and ranging from budget legislation to the Epstein files. And so Trump's now gone. He's gone after Massie. He's gone on after Lauren Boebert, and who else? There's two other Republicans that voted for the release of the Epstein files. Nancy Mace and one other. I forget off the top of my head, but he's going after all of them except for Nancy Mace so far. Ed Gilrain, the puppet Zionist shill here now. He read a scripted 13-minute speech today and was entirely about war and demanding everyone get behind Trump's wildly unpopular war with Iran. There was nothing about healthcare, inflation, immigration, or anything else. He didn't take a single question from the media, and he won't debate Massie either. Gilrain's entirely funded by the Aardvark Land First billionaires, and his only mission is to support America's fighting Aardvark land wars. The only other notable part of his speech was the fact he falsely identified Pete Hegseth as an Army Ranger. Hegseth embarrassingly had to correct him and note that he was just an infantry officer. Also, kind of funny how insanely over-modulated the mic was. And that's a report from Chris Meehan, Information Liberation. Just quickly here, you could hear the over-modulated mic at his speech earlier today, campaigning for never-ending war. He didn't even have his mic on there. Maybe we won't even get to hear it. I guess we're not even going to hear that. What happened there? They say AIPAC is only one. There are many other lobbies. That's true. That is very true. There are many other lobbies. But we just showed you how much they're throwing into this race right there. Like, I don't get it. Yeah, there's, and I don't 100% trust Massie either. Sorry to report to you here now. I don't trust any of these people. But Massie has been the foil to Trump, apparently by design. Massie's opponent, Ed Galrain, believes a war against Iran is a holy war. Take a listen to this.
I went recently to one of the radio interviews I'm fond of doing to talk to the American people about what's going on, things that would be important to them. And I came in with 13 pages of the unclassified. If I brought the classified, it could be 1,013 pages. I can't talk about it. They're one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
They got these nuts believing they're fulfilling their Christian Zionist biblical prophecy to build the third temple, bring back the Aardvark Messiah, and second coming of Jesus. These religious fanatics are extremely dangerous. And whether they even believe it or not, a lot of people out there do, because they're brainwashed by these corrupt churches. Sad to report to you, evidenced by America 250. But there was a lot of reports that it didn't go as well as planned at America 250 rededication to Christian Zionism here in America. Here's now Massie.
RJC, AIPAC, and Miriam Adelson and Paul Singer, they're all part of the Israeli lobby, and that's where all the money comes from. And it will be a referendum on foreign policy, whether Israel gets to dictate that by bullying members of Congress. And I'm the one they haven't been able to bully, so they're putting all the brunt and the force on me. But you can tell that I'm ahead in the polls and they're desperate. That's why they're sending the Secretary of War to my district tomorrow. That's why the president's losing sleep and tweeting about this. That's why AIPAC has dumped another $3 million into my race this weekend, is because they're panicked and they really haven't been able to gain a lead in this race.
You say the president is desperate, but he's got a pretty good record of defeating people he wants to target in Republican primaries. We saw Bill Cassidy yesterday. We saw what happened in Indiana. How are you going to be able to overcome the president's opposition?
Well, I have the endorsement of the Right to Life organizations, the gun organizations. I had 4 members of Congress come here yesterday and campaign with me. So my situation is a little bit different. Plus, I've had millions of dollars come in from the grassroots, tens of thousands of donors to my...
So it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow, the vote there in Kentucky. Again, the most money spent on a Republican primary in history. It's truly disgusting that all these millions upon millions, I think we have the exact number, but they just keep pumping more money into it. What a waste. What a waste. He has secret old Galrain, Ed Galrain, saying he is furious that Massie is pushing to release the rest of Epstein files because it threatens to expose powerful people across both parties. Here's Galrain on Bill Cunningham show, AM radio.
Well, how important to you are the Epstein files? He's cut his chops recently on making more public the Epstein files, which have been out there for like 30 or 35 years. Is that something in your campaign that the folks of Northern Kentucky are saying to Ed Galrain, you know what, I want to hear more about the Epstein files? Is that like a big issue?
Well, I have noticed he's like a political Rip Van Winkle. He seems to wake up and go, I just thought of this. We better get on this. Here's what I would say. Ed Galrain will stand for no wrongdoing with respect to the women and to children and the minors, full stop. But you got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Why couldn't he do a couple things, and why couldn't he do that with the Republicans and show how, again, appropriate we were applying the law, holding people accountable? I'll tell you why. Because he just spends his time alienating everybody. So he can't go to Speaker Johnson and say, hey, let's work on this. Let's work on this together. We got to take part in this. I would be the first one to say, if there's wrongdoing, we need to deal with it. But all that to say, the way he goes about things, he just leaves a trail of disaster behind him. Just shatters, the relationships with the rest of conservatives. He's gone up there. He's burned every bridge. He's burned the bridge factory. And he's run everybody off that wouldn't build a bridge, except.
Jimmy says the GOP openly attacking the conservatives. Here's Secretary of War. First time ever breaking protocol at the Pentagon. Secretary of War. What do you do with the drunken Hegseth campaigning for Galrain? They're throwing everything they got at this race.
The games that are played inside the Beltway start looking pretty small. Now contrast that with what we've gotten from Tom Massie. At some point, being against everything becomes an excuse for accomplishing nothing. At some point, constant obstruction is not leadership, it's just commentary. It's obstruction. President Trump does not need more people in Washington who are trying to make a point, especially from his own party. He needs people willing to help him win, to vote with him when it matters the most. And too often, Thomas Massie has acted like his job is to stand apart from the movement that President Trump leads instead of strengthening it. When President Trump needs backup, Massie wants to debate process. When the movement needs unity, especially at the biggest moments, Massie's willing to vote with Democrats. When conservatives are fighting the most radical left in American history, too often Massie's instinct is to throw elbows at fellow Republicans instead of the people who are destroying our country or want to destroy our country. And there's one man standing in their way, and it's
they're throwing gasoline on the fire. What do you do with the drunken Hegseth there? This one, Ed Galrain says people should vote for him because of his top secret record, which has been seen, but he can't share it with his constituents because it's all a secret. But he has. Let's watch this clip. And then Galrain talks. He refers to himself in the third person in the next clip.
Without missing a lick, he turned to me and he goes, Ed, he says, I want you to go home. You talk to your family, you pray on this, and you think about it. I'm going to endorse you in life and whatever you do. You know why he said that? Remember that top secret record? He knows me. He knows everything about me. He knows what I did for you in uniform. He knows what I'll do for you in Washington. I'll be your champion. I will serve you. I'll serve our party. I'll serve our nation. I'm asking for your vote. I'll be here for further questions. I'll answer the ones. I've gone too long. I'm going to share one last thing about this picture if I could. Of course, I'm most proud of this one back here moving hay. He's going
to vote for war, for never-ending war. You better believe it. And then finally, Finally on Gelrain here. He refers to himself in the third person. Trump does this a lot now too. Just extremely bizarre.
You just have to call me Candidate Gowron. But all that to say, I look forward to sending Ed Gowron to Congress to.
I look forward to sending. He's talking about himself, like something about when people talk about themselves in the third person, it just rubs me the wrong way. Something ain't right about it. Here's the latest that they're throwing into this race. It's not just the Massie Gelrain race. You can see right here. Look at all this money, man. Look at all this money they're pouring into $25+ million in the Massie Gelrain in this Democrat primary in 2024. I remember that one. Bowman, he was a creep. He did all kind of weird stuff. Remember, he pulled the fire alarm. And then who's your other choice? Latimer. Right? So we don't even have a choice. And then this Bush versus Bell, 17. But you could see inflation, I guess. It costs more to buy a seat there in Congress in 2026 thanks to Trump inflation. But a truly incredible amount of money on a primary there. And this is all in large part Aardvark Land funding groups there. And so and I want to like Massie, honestly. I just don't trust anybody and never will again that wants to work for this government. Honestly, is my position, and I'm sticking to it. All right. We're past the hour mark. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. Jan says she gets 2 notifications on YouTube. Some people get none. I don't know. But thank you, Jan, for pushing the notification button so you get notified when we go live. We appreciate that. Go to weaponizednews.com. Get yourself a white background sticker, a clear sticker. Pride Month is next month. You can get a holograph with all the colors of the rainbow there, you see. So we have the white sticker, the holograph sticker, and the clear background sticker. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Go take a look over there at the shop. We got some books, t-shirts, baseball caps, a bunch of different gear over there. Weaponizednews.com/shop. The link's in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber. Weaponized News Substack. We give everything away free, nothing behind a paywall. Help support independent reporting and analysis. Brought to you here 5 days a week. Streaming live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern time. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin, wallet address, and Cash App links all in the description below this video. Weaponizednews.com as a secure PayPal link on the front page. You can't miss it. It says donate right there. Any which way you choose to support us is much appreciated. Hey, I understand the economy's tough. And so if you can't afford a monetary contribution to support the show, give us that like, share, subscribe, and push that notification button. All of that's free for you. We appreciate all of the subscribers, donors, and patrons to the store and everybody that tunes in here. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. On to the second half of the show here now on this Monday, May 18th, 2026 edition. Now we're on to, where are we at? Are we on the economic section of the show, or do we have more? Do we have a little bit more? Oh, we have Epstein reporting. Turns out quite a bit. But first, a word from FBI Director Kash Patel. He won the gold medal for Epstein file cover-ups. He says that President Trump's law enforcement team, led by this FBI, is conducting the most aggressive violent crimes against children takedowns in United States history, and we're not slowing down. Let's watch this clip of propaganda from the FBI, but yet they still are covering up for Epstein. So I do appreciate this work, but there's a whole lot that they're, looking the other way on.
Children are children around the world, and we owe it to them to protect them from our own citizens going out and harming them.
Operation Restore Justice was a 5-day sweeping bureau initiative to identify, track, and arrest child sex predators across the country.
You harm our children, you will be given no sanctuary. There is no place we will not come to hunt you down. There is no place we will not look for you.
But the Epstein co-conspirators walk free now, don't they? So it's falling on deaf ears here. Cash Patel, I can't look at you straight. Winner of the gold medal for Epstein cover-ups. Here is an attorney for Epstein's victims.
They did. Turned out they didn't. They agreed to a plea deal. Does that impact this witness's credibility? Like, how might that change the approach for lawmakers?
It certainly impacts, the credibility that there's been some admission of falsifying records. As a trial attorney, if I had that sort of evidence against a witness, it would be a gold. That's a gold mine. That is really something. So in this context, absolutely, it should question her credibility. Something shady happened. Something weird happened there. No one is supposed to be able to, especially the most prolific predator of our time, is not supposed to be able to take their own life while in federal custody. It's just not supposed to happen. There are safeguards for that. Something very strange happened at that time. There's missing footage. There's falsifying records.
Let's say in the chat, Patel can't look at anybody with his crooked eye. Hey, man. Oh, man. Here's more from that interview. Epstein victim attorneys.
And we are also learning more about a top Goldman Sachs lawyer, Catherine Rumler, who's scheduled to come before the committee in July. Audio recordings and internal memos obtained by the New York Times.
So here's the upcoming depositions, right? I'm looking forward to Bondi and Bill Gates, actually. But overlooked here, Leon Black and his son's leading, I forget even what, the International Investment Corp. I forget the exact name of the federal agency, but yeah. And then this psychopath, a Rumler, top Goldman Sachs attorney and top Obama attorney.
Times reveal a reputational management firm was hired in 2024 to downplay her public association with Epstein. Eric, your reaction to that, what message does that send to survivors that she hired this firm to help with her own reputation?
Unfortunately for the survivors, that is certainly not shocking. Again, I've said many times, Jeffrey Epstein is the only criminal I've ever seen to get special treatment beyond the grave, and it flows out to his associates. Anyone who seems to have been involved with Jeffrey Epstein seems to be facing a separate tier of justice and a separate tier of insight than the rest of the population. It is not surprising at all for the survivors that someone like that has hired a PR team. It seems like the United States government has been a PR team for the associates of Jeffrey Epstein, whether known or
The U.S. government is a propaganda team for Epstein. Indeed, it's true. As the DOJ continues to cover up and dox victims. Amber Wood posted this on the X. Amber Wood says the Epstein files should have united Americans because the real divide was never left versus right. It's the public versus a protected class of wealth and power that believes rules are for other people. It's stated as much in the Epstein files we've gone over here on the show, reading the email correspondence. And so here's a bunch of the crew, right? Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, Black, Larry Summers, Woody Allen, right? I don't even forget these characters. And of course, Epstein didn't kill himself there. In 2014, Epstein's Southern Trust Co., formerly Financial Informatics Inc., made $37.5 million. Tether launched a stablecoin Cambridge Analytica met with Luko Russian oil and ran tests for Putin. Russia flooded Facebook with fake accounts and ads. Epstein offered Bloyakovic his help and in turn got help with Russian visas. We live in a world where people don't seem to mind the richest man in the world directly having hundreds of email exchanges with Epstein. Of course, that's Elon Musk, the public richest man in the world. And we know it's the real riches. They're not publicly available. That's according to Forbes list. But yeah, the front man for technocracy, Elon Musk, all up in the Epstein emails. The Trump Epstein reading room happening now, cover to cover. A 24-hour filibuster hosted by Eliza Orleans. And that's going to be 1,400 minutes of testimony for the 1,400 victims bound into nearly 4,000 books of evidence. And they're going to read the Epstein filibuster for 24 hours. And here's that website here. They're streaming it. 24 hours of reading all of the Epstein emails there and correspondence and Epstein files going on right now, actually. Cover to cover up, indeed, a 24-hour filibuster today and tomorrow. Live from the reading room, 101 Reed Street, Tribeca, New York City. So, yeah. And we showed before they printed all the Epstein files and bound them and have created an art exhibit around it. 3,747 printed bound volumes of the publicly released files. And they're estimated 6 to 10% have only been released. So there's still like 90% plus that the Department of Justice has not released and is covering up actively right now as we speak.
Let me also ask you about what's happening this week with the Oversight Committee interviewing the prison guard. That's tomorrow, who was allegedly the last person to see Jeffrey Epstein alive. And then Thursday, a former personal assistant of the convicted sex offender. This is after Democrats announced a new phase in the investigation. So what can we expect next?
Well, last week I was with survivors in West Palm Beach. We had a field hearing at which we heard these moving stories again from the survivors about their abuse. As you know, these women who were abused as girls have not received a single measure of justice in over 2 or 3 decades at this point.
They got freaking doxxed by the DOJ, a bunch of them, in the release of the files. New reporting here now out of France. Turns out that very underreported. Maybe I heard it a few times here, but turns out Epstein was keeping a apartment there in France. Part of this operation as well. 10 suspected victims have recently come forward in a French probe into the network of the late U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A prosecutor out of France said magistrates are investigating possible offices committed in France or involving French perpetrators who facilitated his crimes. That's a report out of AFP. So, yeah, It's international. And my problem with the Democrats is they're trying to make political capital out of attacking Trump, rightfully so. But the bigger picture is this is the Illuminati death cult here now, right? And so it's way above any politics. And Epstein's a Rothschild super spy agent. You know what I mean? And so they won't go there. But we do here at Weaponized News. So we're gonna keep tracking these depositions as they develop and report to you here now, and take a look at what was going on there at his French residence. As I'm sure the same program, but they're at least acting like they have some shame in Europe and at least acting here in America. They're, it's Trump said it's a Democrat hoax. Really, bro? Well, they've got half of Europe now investigating this, with Epstein running around UK, France, bunch of Europe. And so they're all investigating a Democrat hoax, made up story, apparently. No, it's not a Democrat hoax, and it's an international contraband smuggling ring. It was girls, guns, money, drugs, you name the contraband. This guy's doing it as a top spy of the Rothschilds. All right, that's all the Epstein reporting we got for today. But as I said, we'll continue to follow these depositions as they develop. Onto economic reporting here now. Gas surges past $4 a gallon, while tomato and beef prices notch new record highs. A look at rising costs amid the Iran war. It's a report out of the Chicago Tribune. That's the headline there, and they go down breaking down. The Tribune is tracking 11 everyday costs for Americans: eggs, milk, bread, bananas, oranges, tomatoes, chicken, ground beef, gasoline, electricity, natural gas, and how they are changing. So staples, you don't need any of that. Greedy American, eat some silicon and be happy they're building that data center that's giving you cancer. 72% of Americans feel they'll never achieve the American dream, per Realtor.com. 72%. Make America great again in the golden age, bro. The number of working seniors has increased 52% over the last decade. Realtor.com. So literally work yourself to death. It's the American dream. The ongoing oil price shock is projected to reduce U.S. payroll growth by roughly 10,000 jobs per month through the end of the year. And that's a report by Goldman Sachs. And they'll still lie and say, it's wonderful, record job growth. And you're like, huh? And then it'll be quietly revised down 2 weeks later, and everybody will have forgotten. And that's a continuing trend of lying about economic data coming out of this government. Iran has launched a Bitcoin-based insurance for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, in a interesting development there. Meta platforms, Facebook, right, and Instagram, and other spin-off Meta platforms, they're set to go ahead and lay off. I don't know why they call it layoffs. They're firing these people. The jobs are not coming back. Lost to AI. Approximately 8,000 employees this week, representing about 10% of Meta workforce. Trump administration backs nuclear fusion as a company tied to Trump investments. Trump invests in it. And so it's so tiring, the corruption here on its face. It's real bad. The Emperor Trump has no clothes. They're giving giant government contracts to companies that Trump has interest in or has invested in. It's just wildly corrupt, in our face, man. In our face. And this is one other of those reports. Trump's Energy Department are giving fusion a push from the federal government. Trump has issued executive orders to support the fusion industry. And in addition to providing its fusion roadmap, the Trump administration in November established an elevated Office of Fusion, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, an independent federal agency, is in the process of finalizing new regulatory framework for the fusion industry that some experts describe as a light touch approach. That's a report out of Market Watch. And they just go on here about, pump it up, write executive orders for whatever industry, in this case, energy, fusion, and profiteer off the back of it is the continuing theme coming out of the Trump administration. This out of Fortune magazine. While Trump insisted the Iran war would end soon, an account in his name was buying millions in oil, defense, and gold. In your face war profiteering. It used to be looked very badly upon here, but now MAGA loves the fact that Trump's sending Americans to die in illegal foreign wars of aggression and profiteering off the back of it. What are you, an Iranian Hezbollah? Taco Trump, yeah. After threatening to blow up Iran for the last 48 hours, has backed off, as reported at the beginning of the show. Unusual market activity. People are noticing. Unusual whales reports on the X. Trump purchased up to $630,000 worth of Palantir stock during the first 3 months of this year. In March alone, Trump made at least 7 purchases of Palantir stock, totaling as much as $530,000. A month later, Trump literally wrote a Truth Social saying, quote, Palantir Technologies, and even put their market call sign there, PLTR, has proven to have great war fighting capabilities and equipment, literally pumping the market by promoting these companies and profiteering from it. It's extremely corrupt and despicable. Wall Street has no concept of the magnitude of this. Markets are sleeping into an oil shock. Former Goldman Sachs commodity chief had to say. Let's watch. It's like a 5-minute clip. I'll read you the summation here. Former Goldman Sachs commodity chief Jeff Currie says markets are treating and deepening a global oil deficit like a routine price fluctuation, even as inventories rapidly drain toward crisis levels. You're borrowing oil from the future, and Wall Street isn't forecasting anything. U.S. distillate inventories have collapsed from 120 days of supply to 102 in just weeks. You're going to be out in days, he says. Currie mocked banks for simply chasing spot prices higher rather than modeling the implications of shrinking inventories. That's a mark to market. They're not actually forecasting anything. He added, either they're being censored or they have no concept of the magnitude of this. Trump watches bond yields. Notice he always cuts a deal every single time the 10-year bond, U.S. Treasury bond, hits 4.4%. Currie argues Trump's real fear is oil driving inflation and interest rates higher, threatening the U.S. debt market. The AI compliancy trap. Some argue oil doesn't matter because the energy intensity of GDP is falling and hyperscalers are spending toward $1 trillion in AI capex. Curious response: what is the biggest input into AI compute? It's called oil, energy, diesel, gas. They don't even ask what the price of AI compute is. They assume it's zero. So this former Goldman Sachs commodity chief is saying they're missing it big time here now. And then, as per usual, everybody's favorite, the price of a gallon of gasoline on average, according to AAA, we're well past the $4 mark. We're at $4.51, rounded up to 52 cents. You can see right there as of today. And that's gone up 2 cents from, I don't know, not really budged much from yesterday. You can see right there in the decimals. And then from Brown University, the Watson School of International and Public Affairs, Iran War Energy Tracker. Let's take a look at this. As U.S. households now increase cost of both gasoline and diesel since the beginning of the Iran war, February 28th. It's up to $322 and, well, it just went up 1 cent and 8 cents there as we're speaking of burden due to increased gasoline and diesel costs on U.S. households. And you can see total cost burden since war start. That's $42.2 billion and rising fast. IEA chief warns global oil reserves have weeks of supply left. The head of the International Energy Agency warned earlier today that commercial oil inventories have only a few weeks of supply left as they rapidly deplete due to the Iran war and continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So they are creating this energy crisis, creating artificial scarcity through the blockades on the Strait of Hormuz. The Treasury Department today, Scott Bessent, said the Treasury Department is issuing a temporary 30-day general license to provide the most vulnerable nations with the ability to temporarily access Russian oil currently stranded at sea. This extension will provide additional flexibility and will work with these nations to provide specific licenses as needed. This general license will help stabilize the physical crude market and ensure oil reaches the most energy vulnerable countries and backhandedly fueling the Russian war machine, as we're still in the proxy war via Ukraine with Russia. And that is, they continue to blow up each other's energy infrastructure as part of Operation Lockstep, Energy No More, Net Zero for you and me. Iran's state outlet Tasam news agency reports, citing a senior Iranian source, that the U.S. has agreed to waive oil sanctions during the negotiation period. Additionally, Reuters cites an Iranian source reports that Washington has shown flexibility, including regarding limits on Iran's nuclear program, and has agreed to unfreeze 25% of Iran's frozen funds in a phased manner. Unfreezing the Iranian funds was one of 5 preconditions Iran has outlined to restart negotiations. So giving them some leeway there in their petroleum exports and revenue coming in from that operation. Continuing here, Iran announces a new official body to manage Hormuz. Iran's top security body, the Supreme National Security Council, announced earlier today the formation of a new body to manage the Strait of Hormuz called the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, PSGA. A new PSGA social media account said it would provide real-time updates on the Strait of Hormuz operations and latest developments. In a subsequent post, PSGA said the Persian Gulf Strait Authority is the legal entity and representative authority of the Islamic Republic of Iran for managing the passage and transit through the Strait of Hormuz. It added navigation within the introduced boundaries of the Strait of Hormuz, which were previously determined by the armed forces and authorities of the Islamic Republic of Iran, is contingent upon full coordination with these entities, and passage without permission will be considered illegal. And so here's the new Persian Gulf Authority X account. And so you can follow them if you're tracking maritime shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. There you go. But America still has their big gun saying don't pass here. So Iran's got their gun, America's got their gun, and goods passing through the Strait of Hormuz, not so much. Trump's $4 billion Hormuz insurance scheme fails to cover a single ship. Here's a report out of the Cradle. 2 months, and I remember this reporting on it when it happened. 2 months after Trump announced a $40 billion scheme to provide insurance for vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, not a single dollar of coverage has been provided, according to a report out of the Financial Times. So that whole scheme didn't really work out. Now, did it? Now, meme of the day from the Department of War. Locked in. Good morning. We're going to win. Peace through strength. We shall see. They're pretty fake and gay, if you ask me. That the Department of War would even create such a meme with Trump on it, but there it is from your Department of War. And they put this one out, Speed. They're all hyped up on the dope over there, apparently. Speed. And I do believe this is a reference to hypersonic missiles. They say delivering affordable mass to our war fighters at unprecedented speed. And it does look like some type of missile there. There's your memes of the day out of the Department of War. And yeah, we're building the Greater North America Project. It's ongoing. The U.S., Greenland, and Denmark are holding secret talks over Greenland's future after Trump threatened to seize Greenland. Washington wants expanded military access, influence over major investments, and cooperations on Greenland's natural resources. Greenlandic authorities fear the demands would limit their sovereignty for generations, even if Greenland becomes independent. That's a report out of the failing New York Times. And then we're whacking terrorists still, in large part created by Western intelligence, AFRICOM. Now we whack some damn ISIS terrorists over there in Nigeria. ISIS terrorists thought hiding away in remote parts of Africa would help them evade justice. They were wrong. Those who hurt Americans, plan to hurt Americans, or concoct despicable plots to harm innocent Christians. He's not talking about Aardvark land. He's talking about these dirty Nigerian ISIS terrorists. You could apply it to Aardvark land as well there, but yeah, they don't seem to be able to see that at the Department of War. They went on to say the United States of America will find and kill you. And so we do appreciate the open death threats all over social media from the Department of War assistant to Secretary of War there for propaganda, Sean Purnell, literally death threatening the world here. We'll find you and kill you. And then here's the alleged whacking of ISIS terrorists in Nigeria over the weekend. So we have no idea that any of this is even real, but hey, they're getting a damn terrorist defending the Christians in Nigeria. Sure. And they keep saying it's getting closer there that we're taking Cuba. We're taking Cuba, part of the greater North America project. The U.S. deliberately drives the Cuban economy into the ground and then claims it is Cuba that is driving a migration crisis. An executive order that violates international law. Cuba migration responds directly to the economic crisis induced by the reinforced blockade and the stimulus of the Cuban Adjustment Act, which incentivizes migration for political purposes. And they're talking about this executive order out of the White House. The Cuban communist regime supports terrorism and destabilizes the region through migration and violence. And so over the weekend, there was a report that Cuba's going to drone Florida, maybe, or hell, maybe New York. No, there was a report out of the Zionist mouthpiece Axios that Cuba got their hands on some drones, and look out, America, they're coming to attack us. Cuba is not a threat to the United States, like in any way. That's these guys' breaking points. They say the idea, if you believe that they're really thinking of like drone striking Key West, Florida. Yeah, that was put out again by Axios, floating the idea that we need to go ahead and preemptively strike Cuba because they may attack us with drones, a la Operation Northwoods 2.0. Everybody should look that up, where the intelligence agency CIA pitched the Kennedy administration the idea of staging up false flags to invade Cuba. And so there you go. Same type of idea. Now we have Axios pushing it in the mainstream. Lovely. U.S. Southern Command, the U.S. and Argentina are launching the Protecting Global Commons program to boost maritime security in the Southern Atlantic. This is out of U.S. Southern Command. The partnership begins with the delivery of a specialized camera aboard a special aircraft that patrols Argentina's maritime zone. This program will expand over the next 5 years with advanced equipment, elite training, and support to intercept and neutralize maritime threats. With our good partners there in Argentina, ultra-Zionist President Milei. And then shout out to Ruckus with the 33s here now, 33 comms from U.S. Southern Command. You can't make this stuff up. They say lethal, precise, and ready U.S. military forces deployed to the Southcom area of responsibility are demonstrating America's resolve to ensure the Western Hemisphere is safe from threats that undermine security, stability, and democracy. And then here's your 33 comms.
Roger, I copy all switches safe, controllers grounded, moving the
They're running a bunch of secret wars in Mexico, in Central and South America right now, and public wars as well. Operation Southern Sphere, the extrajudicial assassination of whoever they say is a narco drug trafficker with no due process. That is a war crime and straight up murder. CNN, hey, is Iran more based than America here now on 2A? Let's take a look at this report from CNN as they're preparing for boots on the ground invasion, arming up their general population.
Right, well, these rallies or gatherings have been taking place every single night for the past several weeks, and so they're not new. But what is new is the introduction of weapons. And these kiosks have been set up in each of these sort of squares where members of the military there, you can see them with masks on, they're showing people, in this case a woman, the basic skills of how to use what I think is an AK-47 or a Kalashnikov, things like that. Look over here. They're showing children how to use them as well. It's all part of a sort of state-sponsored call to arms in case the war begins again. It's all guns on state television too. It's several Iranian channels broadcasting their hosts brandishing assault rifles. They gave me a weapon so I could learn how to use it, like you, this anchor tells.
There you go. Everybody in Iran gets an AK. Here's former U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates talking about when old Netanyahu was trying to sell him the Iran was going to nuke us in 2 weeks line.
And is he now?
He told me all those things in July of 2009, and I told him then he was dead wrong, that he was underestimating the resilience of the Iranians, that I thought he had been lulled into an unrealistic position by the absence of an Iraqi reaction when the Israelis destroyed the Osirak reactor in Iraq. He'd been lulled by the Syrian lack of reaction when Israel destroyed their reactor. That was during the second Bush administration.
But this is the war he's been trying to sell for years.
And I told him that this notion he was saying then, the regime is fragile. This is 2009. The regime is fragile. It'll crumble at the first attack and they won't have time to do anything else. I told him then he was wrong.
And is he now?
Well, that's pure hate from Gates right there. Should listen to the real president of America, Bibi. Warning about your iPhone here now. According to the Aardvark Post, Apple announced the iPhone 7e with a chip developed in Aardvark land. And so, as per usual, I reported on here, I've said it a few times. Kurt McKinsey was a computer engineer that worked at Intel in Sacramento. And he told me like 15, probably even more than 15 years ago, he said, hey, guess what, dude? Aardvark Land has built a back door into these Intel chips at the manufacturing level. He told me that 15 years ago. And now here we are in the Aardvark Land Post bragging about it. So know that you have a back door there for your anti-septicism that they'll be keeping an eye on. So, yeah, these terrorists are trying to deliver aid to the starving Palestinian children. The Global Samud Flotilla announced earlier today that 52 civilian boats carrying 461 volunteers from 45 countries had been intercepted by the Aardvark Land Navy in international waters while transporting food, the evil baby formula, and medical aid to Gaza. And so we were talking about this last week, and we said this exact thing was going to happen because it's not hard to predict, because this is policy, no aid for the Palestinians. And it's set up fake aid and shoot you in the face when you go for some aid. And that's the program they're running there. And so, they jacked this flotilla, this global Samud flotilla, because God forbid, again, any baby formula gets through to Palestinians. And then here's the most corrupt man in the world, Bibi. He was he put out a video of himself leading the command to intercept the global flotilla. So imagine that. You're so evil that you're leading the Navy there to intercept any aid, and proudly so, and posting videos about it. And they're like, don't be antiseptic. It's like, dude, you're evil, man.
טוב, תעביר בבקשה את ברכותיי לכל חיילי הכוח. אני חושב שאתם עושים עבודה יוצאת מן הכלל, גם במשט הראשון וגם...
Yeah, we don't have translation there. That was a report out of the Cradle. They say, instead of appearing in court to testify, Netanyahu is at the Aardvark Land Naval Headquarters overseeing the operation to intercept vessels from the global Samud flotilla and detain the activists aboard. Turkey President Erdogan, he talks a lot, right? But we don't see much action out of him. His rhetoric is correct, but then you come to find out he has inside dealings with Aardvark Land. He said he was going to economically boycott them and still caught doing backdoor deals with them. Anyhow, he had this to say, good, strong rhetoric, but not much action, again, out of Turkey there. He said, today, we once again witness how Aardvark Land is governed by a fascist mentality. Aardvark forces launched an attack on the flotilla, which was carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza and did so in international waters. I strongly condemn this act of piracy and banditry against the passage of the flotilla, comprised of citizens from 40 different countries. Today, I once again affirm that Turkey stands with the people of Gaza and with those extending a helping hand to Gaza. And of course, he has to say this rhetoric to keep his Muslim population and those sympathetic to Palestinian genocide from, rioting there. But still, not much action out of Turkey, sadly enough. They're leveling. The project continues of the Greater Aardvark Land Project, leveling southern Lebanon here now. Tragically, I can report to you here today, over 3,000 Lebanese killed since March 2nd in this ongoing operation to steal land to the Litani River, and I believe even further than that. So here's an airstrike in southern Lebanon earlier today, and we have a bunch of these images and video of the ongoing strikes. Aardvark Land kills at least 37 Lebanese after agreeing to a ceasefire extension. So in Aardvark language, ceasefire means whack you. You understand? Aardvark Land strikes across Lebanon kill at least 37 people and wound 222 over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry, just days after a 45-day extension of a ceasefire was agreed to on Friday. Seems like we have a very hard time with definitions about what a ceasefire here now means. That's a report out of Drop Site. And then here's this reporter on the ground, Courtney Bonnernew. She's there on the ground reporting it, and it's quite horrific. Here's the drone strikes, artillery shellings, air jet strikes. Here's a couple of the images out of southern Lebanon, leveling the place. Quite horrific. Aardvark land warplanes and artillery launched a new wave of strikes across southern Lebanon yesterday. Homes in multiple villages were hit. Here's some video of that. They're leveling the place, turning into apocalyptic hellscape per Gaza now in southern Lebanon.
يلا يا شباب اتكلوا على الله. شنشان يلا فيش اصابات يلا.
Multiple homes hit there. Let's see. Yeah. Total dead Lebanese, 3,020 killed since March 2nd, and 9,273 wounded, according to Lebanon's health ministry. And again, they're systemically targeting any public health infrastructure they have. They're going, well, the totals include women, children, healthcare workers, paramedics, anybody that could help the injured. They're also targeting there now. You see? As part of a systemic campaign to massacre the Lebanese and steal their land, i.e. ethnic cleansing, i.e. genocide, i.e. the apartheid state of Aardvark land. Hezbollah has responded. Hezbollah announced 4 operations earlier today, and so they are responding. They go through more operations. So Hezbollah is launching a bunch of operations. This other report out of the Cradle said 13 other different operations. They go through detail all the operations there launched by Hezbollah. And you're like, but they're still whacking Palestinians. Oh, yes, that genocide continues there during the, quote, ceasefire. Aardvark land killed 19 Palestinians and wounded 76 others in Gaza in new attacks that continued today, over the weekend and into today. At least 19 Palestinians were killed and 76 wounded in Aardvark land attacks across Gaza over the weekend, according to Gaza's health ministry. And there's pictures. I'm not even going to show them of little kids blowing up. I'm not even going to show it here. It's war porn. You can go find it on the internet if you want, but it's, again, quite horrific. They're blowing up little kids there in Gaza continually. That was a report out of Drop Site. This is a report out of the Cradle. The Ministry of Health in Gaza announced this morning that 6 Palestinians were killed. They're still stacking bodies. You know what I mean? 6 killed and 40 injured in the last 24 hours on the Gaza Strip. Since the so-called, quote, ceasefire on October 11, 2025, at least 877 Palestinians have been killed, 2,602 injured, and 776 bodies recovered from the rubble of the apocalyptic hellscape, formerly known as the Gaza Strip. Yeah. And I do believe that's underreporting. It's way worse than that. It's way worse than even those reports. Now, Aardvark land moves to steal Palestinian land surrounded by Al-Aqsa Mosque and bid to Aardvarkize Jerusalem. There's that report out of the Cradle. And so they're trying to provoke a violent reaction from these Muslims, so then they have an excuse to do the whole, they're terrorists and cut off the babies' heads and all the BS. And so Ben Gvir and the rest of these ultra-Zionist settlers are continually desecrating the Muslims' holy site there, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, doing all kinds of tricks, locking them out, spitting on it, doing Talmudic satanic rituals there. trying to provoke a response out of these Muslims so they could turn around and say, look, bad terrorists, and then go on some more massacre sprees there. Is the ongoing operations. Middle East Monitor reports the Jerusalem governorate called for urgent international intervention after Aardvark land authorities approved a plan to seize Palestinian properties in the Bab al-Sisal area near the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. They keep poking them. Do something. You see the provocateur program going on here. Aardvark land expands death penalty law to include West Bank Palestinians. And so, of course, as we covered here, Ben Gvir with his 50th birthday cake with the noose on it and wearing the noose lapel pin, celebrating the final solution there to be carried out, the death penalty for an alleged Palestinian terrorist in custody. Aardvark land authorities expanded the use of the death penalty against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank on May 17th, yesterday, after military commander Avi Bluth signed an order authorizing military courts to carry out executions in so-called, quote, security cases. And so they're lining them up. We showed the gallows there that Ben Gvir was celebrating. Under directives from Aardvark Land Army Minister Aardvark Katz, occupation authorities have decided to begin implementing the death penalty law promoted by ultra-nationalist Minister Ben Gvir in the occupied West Bank. Aardvark Land Channel 14 reports they're carrying out the final solution. I thought we were against that. Apparently not. They get it. ICC prosecutors have secretly sought an arrest warrant for Aardvark Land Finance Minister Smotrich over alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity in the occupied West Bank. The report charges include forced displacement, illegal settlement expansion, persecution, and apartheid against Palestinians. The application was reportedly filed on April 2nd and is now under review by ICC judges. No warrant has yet been issued. Yeah. So if they do, it comes down to who's going to enforce it. Because you got Gallant, you got Bibi, they got international arrest warrants for war crimes against them. Nobody's enforcing it. Nobody's enforcing it now, are they? And then trigger warning final of the day here. Ultra-Zionist Aardvark settler throws rocks at a cat. This is probably the most... people don't care about women, children. They do care about the statues of Jesus. And they probably care more about cats than people. But here's these maniacs' mindset, throwing rocks at cats there, as per usual. Ultra-Zionist maniacs running rampant in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem, throwing rocks at cats now. There's no level of depravity they won't sink to. And that's all the reporting we have for today. Let's look at the headlines now. As from Iran International, Trump says strike delay could last 2 or 3 days or forever if Iran deal is reached. Iranian lawmakers warn of strong response to new attack. Yeah, they're arming up their population with AKs. Oil prices fall over 2% after Trump pauses Iran strike plan. He's manipulating the markets in the background of all of this. It's just beyond the pale. He's a war profiteer and needs to be impeached and prosecuted for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Okay? I'm saying it. That is who Trump is. And he's making it evident every single day here now. Iran must renounce nuclear ambitions, Trump said earlier today from the White House. And last week on Thursday, Trump said the whole nuke issue is just propaganda, PR, to manipulate markets and profiteer off of all of this insanity. Latest headlines out of Al Jazeera. Yeah, same thing. It says Trump attack on hold. And yeah, over 3,000 dead Lebanese since March 2nd there. New poll confirms falling U.S. support for military aid to Aardvark land for Iran war. Australia government secures jet fuel, fertilizer shipments. UN Security Council could hold emergency meeting tomorrow as support for Strait of Hormuz resolution grows. U.S. Senate Democrats to force 8th vote on war powers resolution. And that's all the headlines we have for today. Let's go to the channels. Oh, real quickly, this guy was saying that, what's his name? Christopher John Berjinkness. He's saying that this image that Trump posted of him with the alien is actually cabal prophecy. It says Trump perp walks Satan in chains as if Jesus casting Lucifer into hell for 1,000 years. Apocalypse Kabbalah masterclass. And he's talking about, let me pull up a cleaner image here. That is how he's interpreting it. I'm telling you, I honestly don't know. But Trump did post this on the back of all this UFO propaganda to his Truth Social over the weekend. And so is this Trump thinking that he's carrying out God's will according to their fake prophecy to cast Satan into hell for 1,000 years? I don't know. But that's one take about this insanity. All right, let's go to the Odysee. See if we have any viewers in the chat. Yeah, we do. Thank you guys for tuning in on Odysee. Shout out to Gurr, John, Danger over there. Let's see here. Gurr says, as usual, Elon is struggling to talk BS. Let's see. Massie might be the only congressman doing his job, John said. Yeah, it looks that way. It looks that way. Good night, Gurr. Let's see. Yeah, they're not liking the guy running against Massie. He's a total puppet. He's a total puppet of Trump and the military industrial complex, technocracy. He'll do whatever they say to represent the people in his district. Let's see. Danger says, yep, it's been known for a long time. They lie. It has been a real life meme since before computers even existed. Yeah, I thought it used to, but people seem to have forgotten and are under that spell of Trump and just lose their mind. And you're like, same routine, bro. You know what I mean? Don't trust these lying criminal politicians. There's a lot of chatter about insider trading, but the SEC press, but will the SEC press investigation? Not under Trump. And then they'll do some big old scandal once Trump's out with Democrats in there, and just the same old nonsense, right? No one will ever be held accountable for war profiteering and war crimes and genocide. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee, X, Kick, Bitchute, Substack, Rumble, and YouTube. Let's take a look. I'm going to go about halfway up on the Rumble chats here. Shout out to Jan, Chloe, Karen. Thank you guys for tuning in, keeping that lively. Again, Jan says the good chat is on the Rumble. Who's that? Ron on the YouTube says it's a J. All the files, videos, and pictures haven't been released. Yeah. Jan says Jeff is alive and well in Aardvark land with all the, yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. Join the master narrative, Mac says. Shout out to Mac over there. And then I'm going to plug Mac too. I don't know if his channel pulled up, but everybody should go give Mac a follow on the Substack. He's putting out pretty regularly daily reports. And so go follow Mac on the Substack. I will have to find his account and plug it tomorrow here, but shout out to Mac and thank you for your work. I see you out there putting reports out. Let's see here. Continuing in the comments, Carrie, shout out to Carrie, says San Jose converting large Italian bank building to housing with businesses on the bottom as one solution there. Yeah, the Flexner report says that Sabrina is talking about the Flexner report that I'm reading from 1905 changed how medical schools were eliminated. Yep. It's when Rockefeller took over. A major part of the Rockefeller medicine takeover. There's some hate. Where they say morons only listen to this guy, Romeo, on the YouTube. Okay, but you're listening, so shout out back to you, Romeo. Yeah, they're talking about the gas prices. It's real bad. Fat Bob says gas up 50 cents since last week. Gas where Jan is $4.09 for the low grade 87 octane. Chloe says $4.94 where she is. Fat Bob $5.59. Just rounded up to $4.60. That's another scheme where they scheme, right? As they put $4.59 and then they put 0.9 at the end of it because they're scheming that point, what would it be, 0.009, right? They're scheming that's hidden in the price as well. These Rockefeller oil oligarchs are price gouging the hell out of us, man. Where's Congress? Where's the president? Where's the executive orders? They care so much about us. Do something, because supposedly we're the world's leading energy producer here in America, but yet we have unlivably high prices. So the only explanation I can see is they're price gouging the hell out of us, creating artificial scarcity and running us into the ground. Snow says on the YouTube, Technate incoming, U.S. Canada just paused cooperation. 33, talking about Cuba. A teacher in Cuba only makes $25 a month. Gas there is $9.10 a liter. Stacy, they changed the name to Department of War, so that's what they all call it. So I think we're more accurate here now. And I do believe it hasn't been 100% officially changed, but they put up the new sign, and they all go by Department of War, and so that's what it is. I agree with you there, Stacy. It needs congressional approval, but it's what they all call it, and that's what they go by. So for accuracy purposes, we're calling it the Department of War. A few people are okay with what is happening in this country. Donald Trump illegally accumulating, how many is that? $700 billion? I don't even know, a lot of zeros. Now, while people have no food and no jobs and no housing and the gas prices he created, everybody loves it, Trump says. So, shout out to A-Dub. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. That's about all I got for today, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. Let's pray for peace. Hope that this thing holds. Let's hope this thing holds and they stand down and end this thing and sign a peace deal. I have a hard time believing that's going to happen with the bloodlust of Aardvark land driving this whole genocidal program, but let's pray for peace. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Monday evening, and we're back here on Tuesday for more Weapon.